Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. I'm here with the miserable liberal Steph Sam and Ron Placone.
Hello.
And
Howdy.
break it. Hey, what? We got we got an alert. We got a news alert. So just I'm going to show you here it comes. The news alert's coming, but I'm going to tell you about it first. So people have been trying to figure out where WikiLeaks got the John Podesta emails. Now, everybody in the Democratic Party and the mainstream press says that Russia hacked them. And there's been no proof, zero. And not only do they say Russia hacked them, but Trump is in collusion with Russia hacking our election. They never say how, they just say that. So, last summer, there was a staffer for the DNC shot and killed. 4 o'clock in the morning. They said it was robbery, but he didn't take his watch, didn't take his wallet, didn't take his money. Didn't take his cell phone. So it wasn't a robbery. 4 in the morning. So here's what Fox, so people are saying, and then by the way, Julian Assange said that guy was shot. He put out a reward.
20 grand.
20 grand. He wouldn't say he was working for WikiLeaks, and that's where WikiLeaks got the emails from. He wouldn't say it, but he intimated it, right? And then they put out so here's the Fox News. This is what everybody's talking about, the Fox News report.
Back with the Fox News alert, a brand new bombshell in the murder of that guy right there, a DNC staffer. An investigator now says Seth Rich was in contact with WikiLeaks.
Not only that, he claims there's been a law enforcement cover-up.
Well, Griff Jenkins live in Washington with these breathtaking, breaking developments. Griff.
Brian Ainsley and Steve, good morning. Breaking indeed and developing at a rapid pace. Bombshell new evidence of a former DNC staffer you just showed there, Seth Rich, suggests he was in communications with WikiLeaks prior to his murder last summer. Let me take you back. Here in the nation's capital, it was last July. DNC staffer Seth Rich was shot and killed on the way home from a bar in a trendy Northwest neighborhood here. Police initially saying that they believed it was a botched robbery, but questions remain with the investigation still open. Now, a year later, according to a parallel investigation by former D.C. police homicide detective and Fox News contributor Rod Wheeler, there's evidence that Rich had contact with WikiLeaks. That evidence on a laptop belonging to Seth Rich showing he was talking with WikiLeaks. Wheeler says this smells like a cover-up.
I want to find out who caused that man's death so we can put them behind bars. But if there's somebody in politics, if there's somebody in government, whether it's in the mayor's office or anywhere else in the city that's involved, you better believe they're going to be dragged in and questioned.
Wheeler sources inside the police department also saying that they were told to stand down on the case. Police not confirming any of this with us. I've been calling the PIO number here at the D.C. Police Department. That was at 6 a.m. and I have contacts from private crime stories. Nobody telling me anything. We are going to keep hunting this. It's worth noting, guys, at the time of Rich's death, his wallet was not taken, and he actually went to the hospital. He was still alive at the hospital where he died. We know nothing about what may have transpired between police investigators and Rich, but obviously Rod Wheeler looking into it. I've known Rod for a long time, and I know he's been looking into this case for a long time in a parallel investigation. This is simply developing, guys, and we will have more on it later.
Not a high crime neighborhood, right?
Not at all. It's in the Bloomingdale neighborhood, one of D.C.'s, if not D.C.'s most popular neighborhood with bars and restaurants. Very unusual and shocking when that murder occurred last July.
Well, I like they refer to it as a botched, the police refer to it as a botched robbery. Could there be a bigger botching of a robbery? You didn't take anything. They didn't take his wallet, his watch, or his cell phone, or his money. That's a blue. You could not botch it any more harder. You did kill the guy, though. So you did the worst thing, which is worse than robbery. You killed a guy, but you didn't take anything. Doesn't sound like a robbery. Does that sound like a robbery to anybody else?
No, definitely not.
Why would they call it a botched robbery? Why would they just call it an unknown murder, an unknown reason? You put a name to it, a botched robbery? What indicates that it was a robbery? Not a goddamn thing was taken. So why would it be a botched robbery? That's not a botched robbery is when they steal everything from the guy and they end up killing him. Then it's botched because you're not supposed to kill a guy you're robbing because that's worse than robbing a guy. That's a bigger charge. So that's why it would be botched. Something went wrong, they ended up killing him. You kill someone during a robbery when something goes wrong. You don't kill someone and that not rob them. Am I wrong about this?
No, I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, usually there has to be evidence that there was an attempted robbery to designate it
Zero
as
evidence.
such.
Zero.
Why isn't it a botched rape? Or
Yeah, why weren't they trying to botch sell him some mortgages,
Right?
bad mortgage? Why weren't
Right.
they could just put anything in there. It was a botched carjacking. He didn't have his car. So what? It was botched. So here's from Fox News. Family of slain DNC staffer Seth Rich blasts detective over report of WikiLeaks. So the family, they're kind of upset. So this is from this article from Fox News Politics. Said a spokesman for Rich's family on Tuesday said Wheeler, that guy that we just saw, the detective, Wheeler was not authorized to speak for the family and called assertions that Seth Rich sent emails to WikiLeaks unsubstantiated. Brad Bauman said even if purported emails were to surface, it would not necessarily mean Rich had helped WikiLeaks. Yeah, it wouldn't necessarily mean it, but it would pretty much look like it means it. Wouldn't necessarily, but it looks like it. Come on. Quote, even if tomorrow an email was found, it is not a high enough bar of evidence to prove any interactions, as emails can be altered. And we've seen that those interested in pushing conspiracies will stop at nothing to do so. It sounds like you're trying to discredit evidence that will be found in the future. That's what this sounds like.
yeah,
It sounds like this isn't what you think, even if you find evidence of it, Bauman said. That's what this sounds like, right? That's effed up. Even if we find evidence, it's probably fake. What? That's what that is. That's crazy. That is crazy that he said that. We are a family who is committed to facts, not fake evidence that surfaces every few months to fill the void and distract law enforcement and the general public from finding Seth's murderers. He put it in plural. Murderers. And that's also interesting. Why would they put it in plural?
Yeah, how would they know?
Murderers? Although Bauman said Wheeler was paid by a third party, so that investigator was not paid by the family. So people are saying, oh, it's the family's own private investigator. That investigator we just saw from the D.C. police, former D.C. police, he's not being paid directly by the family. He's being paid by a third party. The family is named as clients of Wheeler's capital investigations on a contract signed by Rich's father, Joel Rich. So he's being paid by a third party, but there's a contract with Wheeler, that investigator, that's signed by Seth Rich's dad. So you're gonna see people saying that, hey, he's not even the family's in private. He's hired by a third party. He's being paid by a third party. But according to this reporting, the contract for that investigator who we just heard, that contract was signed by Seth Rich's dad. And now they want Seth Rich's family wants that investigator to shut up. An FBI forensic report of Rich's computer, generated within 96 hours after Rich's murder, showed he made contact with WikiLeaks through Gavin McFadden, a now deceased American investigative reporter, documentary filmmaker, and director of WikiLeaks, who was living in London at the time, the federal source told Fox News. What? The FBI forensic report showed that he had been in contact with the head of WikiLeaks? With the director of WikiLeaks? What? That sounds like information. WikiLeaks has decided to issue a $20,000 reward for information leading to the conviction and murder of a DNC staffer, Seth Rich, the organization announced. Assange has not returned a series of recent emails from Fox News about Seth Rich. McFadden, who was considered a mentor by Assange, he died of lung cancer on October 22nd at age 76. Don't smoke. Washington Metropolitan Police Department has no suspects.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Didn't you say this was in a busy thoroughfare? Didn't you say there was like
Well, it's at 4 in the morning.
4 in the morning? Now,
But I heard it was just, I'm not exactly sure. We saw in the report where the cops were standing and looked outside of an apartment building. Go ahead.
well, we often see that there are video cameras for different homes for security and, businesses.
Yeah, I guess there's no video of it because, or if there is, it hasn't surfaced.
Yeah, I mean, he was coming back from a bar.
But that's what they say. At 4
They're saying
in the
he was coming
morning.
back from a bar.
At 4 in the morning. 4 in the morning. Washington Metropolitan Police Department has no suspects and no substantial leads. None. Really? That's also suspect. I can't imagine a high priority murder case for the DC Metropolitan Police Department than this one. No leads? No leads? Sounds like a botched robbery by some amateurs. That's why there's no leads. I'm suspect of that. This is that to me, this is red flaggy all over the place. Metropolitan Police, including the police chief, has refused to discuss the case, despite requests from Fox News dating back for 10 frickin' months. Why wouldn't they want to talk about it? Why wouldn't they want to talk to the press about a high-profile murder that's unsolved? I don't know. Maybe it's their policy not to talk about it. I don't think that's their policy. Steph, what were you going to say before about Wheeler and he?
Well, one thing I will say about law enforcement, though, is that a lot of times when they do an incomplete investigation or they likely got something wrong, they kind of stick to their story no matter what.
Yeah.
And they just don't speak to the press. So there is that factor too, that maybe, just jumping to botched robbery was very incomplete at best. And now they're just,
They're
trying to
repeating
stick
it.
to it because that's how they do things.
Okay, so what I read was Wheeler he's quoted saying, "My investigation up to this point shows there was some degree of email exchanges between Seth Rich and WikiLeaks." This is Wheeler, a Fox News contributor, and
he was the one hired, according to the reporting, by Seth Rich's dad, who signed the contract, even though his pay was being or his fee was being paid by a third party. Okay.
And he continues by saying, "I do believe that the answers to who murdered Seth Rich sits on his computer on a shelf at the DC police or FBI headquarters. And then he goes on and says this, someone with the DC government, DNC, or Clinton team is blocking the murder investigation from going forward." End quote.
Seems like it. It seems like it. It seems like that guy is telling the truth. So he's not an unnamed investigator. He's a named guy. We know who he is. We put his face on the thing. Okay.
And I just read that it was mentioned, I don't know if you said this already, but Seth Rich had been notified that he was going to finally get his dream job and work with the Clinton campaign. He had found that out shortly before his death.
Wow. So the speculation is that he was the connection with WikiLeaks. That's where they got the John Podesta emails. That's the speculation. That's why he was killed. This guy seems to think he has proof of it. This guy being Wheeler, saying that there's proof of the emails and that there's proof of. So
and we're still waiting to see it. It has not come to the surface yet.
Right. So we'll see. Julian Assange has definitely wants people to think there's more to this story than there is. He has never been proven to be a liar. Julian Assange. I mean, I'm sure he lies as much as the next person, but I'm talking about through his reporting. they've never been proven to be false. So
can I just add a couple details because we were talking earlier about it being a botched robbery. Okay, so according to this interview that of his father, he said, "We don't know if there's one person or two people. All we know is that there was some sort of scuffle. His son's watch band was torn, or somebody had tried to grab it. That's why they're talking about a botched."
Oh, that's why they're saying it was a botched robbery because his watch band
and some bruises on his body too. Torn.
But they didn't take it.
It doesn't seem like it says Seth's.
You think
watch
if they
band
wanted
was
that
torn.
watch? You think if they wanted that watch, they could take it? Because after there's two of them, and then they killed him.
And you think that if they were going after, like, let's say they were going after the watch, that was their main go-to, they didn't get it, whatever, and then there was a struggle and he got killed, you'd think they would take something. Because now you just shot a guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's still, I mean, again, that's a little bit of an inkling where it's like, okay, there is a torn watch, but that still is kind of like, yeah, but that's still a weird.
There was a scuffle. How do we
Nothing
know,
was taken.
How do we know there was a scuffle because he had bruises on his body, or did someone witness a scuffle? Nobody witnessed this.
I don't know, but this article goes on and says
Where's
he was
this article
talking
from?
on the phone with his girlfriend.
Yes,
at the
I
time.
read that too. That he was talking with his girlfriend on the phone at the time that this happened, right?
Yes.
And so what did they say? Read
That's the only thing that's the little blurb that I got right then.
And the last people that saw him were the bar he was at. That's apparently the last people that saw him.
Absolutely.
And they said he was drunk. They did say that he seemed drunk at least.
Okay,
Really?
so the article that I'm referencing is by Ari Feldman.
And where's it from?
And it looks like it's from News National.
Okay.
And he goes on and says that somebody at the bar said that Rich seemed sadder that night than usual and was offered a ride home, but he decided that he would walk.
Okay, so, maybe there's nothing to this, but if there was nothing to this, you would think that the D.C. police would talk about it more, right? You would think. So there's just a lot of, okay. I wonder also why Seth Rich's family felt a need to hire a private investigator.
Well,
why did they feel a need to hire a private investigator? Go ahead.
According to this article, and this was published in August 2016, they say that the family does believe that it was it was a random robbery.
That's what the family thinks.
According to this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they certainly don't want their son. You don't want your son to be the target of vitriol from the Hillary Clinton campaign, of all those people and everybody who's upset about Trump being president. You wouldn't want those people, now mad at your son, even though he's deceased.
Yeah, well, and
you want to protect his reputation and memory in death. Go ahead.
Well, and I was just adding to that family may or may not have a positive view of WikiLeaks as well.
Right.
I mean,
correct.
so it might be, to them that might be like, oh, he would never talk to somebody like that.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe.
I mean, I don't know the political ideology of them, but
right. Neither do I. So there you go. That's the big story everybody's talking about, and it certainly is interesting to me. I would, I reserve judgment on everything until we see evidence. It would be nice to see evidence.
Wish
right?
the news cycle felt the same about Russia.
I really wish the news cycle felt the same about Russia. Let's have some evidence, because this is what we get now.
I know that you and some of your colleagues from the Senate Intelligence Committee drove over to Langley, Virginia yesterday to CIA headquarters, and you were briefed. Here's the question. And you don't have to provide us with any classified information, Senator. But do you have evidence that there was in fact collusion between Trump associates and Russia during the campaign?
Not at this time.
Well, that's.
That was from last week. Okay. That's what we get. I just want to see evidence. So this is just to reaffirm what we said before. This is from the Wheeler, the investigator. He said, my investigation shows someone within the D.C. government, Democratic National Committee, or the Clinton team is blocking the murder investigation from going forward. That is unfortunate. So that's interesting. That's his assertion. He also from that article, it says the botched robbery theory, which police have pursued for nearly a year, isn't panning out. Two assailants caught on a grainy videotape You were asking about that. 2 assailants caught on a grainy videotape from a camera posted outside a grocery mart shot Rich twice in his back, but did not take his wallet, his cell phone, his keys, his watch, or his necklace worth about $2,000. Rich had been at Lou's City Bar a couple of miles from his home until about 1:15 a.m. He walked home, calling several people along the way. He called his father, Joel Rich, who he missed because he had gone to sleep. He talked with a fraternity brother and his girlfriend, Kelsey Mulka. Around 4:17 a.m., boy, what is that? Takes him 3 hours to walk a couple miles? That's a long walk, huh? Why wouldn't you just hop an Uber? Around 4:17 a.m., Rich was about a block from his home when Mulka, still on the phone with him, heard voices in the background. Rich reassured her that he was steps away from being at his front door, and he hung up. 2 minutes later, Rich was shot twice. Police were on the scene within 3 minutes. Rich sustained bruising on his hands and face. He remained conscious but died at a nearby hospital less than 2 hours later. And he concludes in that article, seems that not everyone within the FBI is on board with the Russian hacking narrative and are finally starting to come forward. So you remember this? The guy who said, a spokesman for Rich's family on Tuesday said Wheeler was not authorized to speak for the family and called assertions in the Seth Rich sent emails to WikiLeaks unsubstantiated. And he said even if it was purported the emails were to surface, it would not necessarily mean Rich had help. Remember all that? You remember the guy who said that? His name is Bauman. When we found out who he is, he's a regular Democratic PR spokesperson. Isn't that weird that they would have a PR guy from the Democrat that's a regular Democratic PR guy working for that family, and he's the one saying, remember, I'm like, that's crazy. That is crazy that he's saying that. Even if remember, he went on to say, even if tomorrow an email was found, it's not high enough bar for a... You don't even know what he's already discounting evidence they haven't found yet. Even if we find evidence, doesn't mean anything. That's a Democratic PR guy saying that. Why would they have a Democratic PR guy saying that if this investigation, if it really wasn't, if this guy really wasn't connected to the frickin' WikiLeaks? Why would he be discounting information that hasn't even showed up yet? How can you discredit evidence that you haven't gathered yet? That's what he's doing, and that guy's a Democratic PR spokesperson. This is frickin' fishy as all get out, baby. There is more to come on this, pal. There is way more to come on this. Thank God there's some people inside the FBI, and thank God for this guy Wheeler. This all sounds really fishy. And why is this guy here? Why is this guy Bauman? So here's what WikiLeaks said about him. Seth Rich's new family spokesman is Brad Bauman, a professional Democrat crisis PR consultant with the Pastorum Group. So there you go. Whew. There's a lot more to this story, and we'll be bringing it to you. The next live Jimmy Dore show in Burbank, California is May 22nd. May 22nd, that's a Monday night, live in Burbank, California. Special guests, a great time. Get your tickets right there.